Hi everybody and welcome back to Isola TV. Today we are here with the second appointment of the fair with the students of the Master of Biodesign of St. Martin. Today we are going to explore the new approaches for fashion textiles. And so I would like to welcome our guests. Welcome, girls.
Hi.
Hi. We are a lot today.
Hi.
A lot of people talking. Hi. It's really nice to have you all here, and I'm really happy that we could meet. They could have met each other, and so I already knew some of your colleagues the other day, and so now I want to ask you to introduce yourself and to talk a little bit about your project, because now I know that you just made your project for the final exams of the master, so I would like to ask you to tell something about it. So, Cassie, could you start, please?
Yes. Hi, my name is Cassie Quinn. My background is in fashion and textiles, and my project is called Influctuation. This project I wanted to explore some natural fibers that we already have existing in the industry, and how we can take them further into the future. So by using new protocols and experimentation, I experimented with making lots of different variations with using flax and focusing on a regenerative farm in Ireland.
Oh, that's very nice. Thank you. T, tell us about yourself.
Hi guys, my name is T. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. I have a background in fashion design, and I came into biodesign looking to work with textiles and grow materials. So my final project was working with slime mold, which is a self-growing organism, and I used that to actually print on textiles. And so to use organisms and nature to actually build fashion and start that conversation around fashion.
That's really interesting. Thank you. Emily.
Hi, so I'm Emily and I'm based in London. I'm from print and textile background. So for my final project, which was Euphoric, I looked at how the fashion industry works today within the three elements of trend forecasting, pigments, and prints. And I tried to see if there were more sustainable ways to change each of those different sections while still following the same system. So I followed a trend forecasted for spring/summer 2022. And then I looked at the pigments for it, and I used natural dyes and bacterial pigments. And then I looked at print using biobinders and mycelium and different techniques to grow it to see if I could recreate print techniques such as screen printing, devore, and discharge that normally are really chemical heavy to create a textile collection that had minimal chemicals and waste and water usage.
Oh, that's really, really interesting. Thank you, Emily. Lu.
Hello, I'm Lu, and my background is fashion design. And my project is about improve the soil quality by the living mycelium and the compostable custom bioplastic to improve the nutrients in the soil by the testing protein and clean the contamination in the soils from the petroleum by the micro-remediation. So it's a soil bioremediation project for fashion industry.
Thank you very much, Lu. Peng, what about you?
Hi guys, I'm Mieiqi Peng, and I'm an interdisciplinary designer with a fashion design background. And after completing my undergraduate degree, I realized that there is huge amount of textile waste that will generate in fashion industry. So my final project is an anatomical microtrue, which is regenerating recycled the wasted cotton from fashion industry and to grow the mycelium on top of it to regenerate a new textile from the recycled material.
Yeah. That's really interesting. Thank you for all of you girls. It's really interesting to see your approaches that are to give fashion more a sustainable way to produce new products in the field, right? And so I would like to I would like, what do you think for you it's the first most important thing to, because I know maybe a lot, quite something about sustainability and fashion, but I don't know maybe what is important when a new product comes in this field. So what do you want? What is the purpose of your projects in fashion in the future? So who wants to start?
Yeah, I can start. So I think that one of the most important things is that we have to kind of consider what the negative impacts could be. I think it's so easy to get caught up in a really great product or a new material and forget that, anything in large amounts could be damaging. And what's really nice about our, like, this sort of fashion and textile group within our class is that we all are working with very different organisms and different materials. And that's what we really need. We need more diversity. The reason why cotton is so damaging is because it's such a dominant feature within the industry. So more diversity within what we're using, and just the considerations of what could be the impacts in the future.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think it's thinking long term and also, transparency and saying exactly what the process was to create this piece and everything that is in it. And, if you did have to use a certain chemical or, using a lot of something could potentially harm the environment, then I think it's important to say. And also I think transparency really helps people understand the investment in the process, and it can really help with changing people's mindsets into keeping things for longer and not throwing them away, and changing people's opinion on what and how you should be buying fashion.
Of course, that could be a little bit difficult to change people's opinion, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we're quite stubborn.
Yeah.
I also think that monitoring the data within the fashion industry is also crucial, because if we don't know what the energy comes in and where will it goes out, we don't know how to measure it and how to control it. Yeah, so that's one key as well, based on what you said.
Of course, it's really important. T, what do you think?
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm gonna bunch off of what Emily was saying about like changing the minds. I think it's really awesome what we're doing with biodesign into fashion, because we're completely changing the relationship of how we design and rethinking the whole system. And for that, I think for us as designers, we're looking at things from literally the every single step we're thinking our way through. And so initially, as a designer, you would just build a collection, right? But with biodesign, you're actually forming that relationship with the organism first, and you're like seeing how it's going to impact the product, and not just the product, how it's going to shape the industry afterwards. So I think it's really crucial to see everything on a microscopic level, and I think that's what the masters really taught me. I'm sure for the other girls as well. Like, I think we're like getting into the point where everything has to be tested out in a petri dish before it's becoming an actual material.
Of course, and I had also the occasion to see something in the microscope with the other guys during the last live, and it was also really interesting for me to see that we have to start from the really base of everything. So the smallest part of the material, and to make something new then. And so then I want to talk about an important point in sustainable fashion, that is localism. That a lot of people also, I had a few talks also about sustainability, and we all talks about localism. And what do you think about it?
Yeah, so sorry, I can start. Within my project specifically, like that was kind of the first step that I took, was, looking at the industries that are really close to us. So I'm from Ireland, and I really looked at what flax farming used to be like in Ireland and how that's completely changed. And I think that it's becoming really obvious now that localism is so important. I was reading an article recently that said that renting clothing is actually not that sustainable. It's more sustainable to throw it away because of the carbon emissions that are emitted when you transport the garments. And these sort of like areas are things that can be easily missed out. When you buy something on Amazon and it gets posted to you, like that is actually really impacting the sort of supply chain of making materials. So I think it's super important to have that conversation. And obviously it makes the price point a lot higher if you are a designer and using local products only. But I think that there needs to be that shift in mindset to understand that it is one of the biggest impacts of the process.
Yeah, I really agree. I think specifically your collection really did look at localism. Everything that you did with the flax really kind of had a point to it. And I think for me as well, I really tried to stick within my area. So for my natural dyes, I looked at working with restaurants and looking at their wastes that were local to me, rather than just buying whatever I could to make the color, which saves a lot of extra growth and fields and harvests. And with bacteria, one of the things that I love about it is it's so versatile and strong, and it's been around the longest. You can really grow it anywhere, so it's something that every country would have accessibility to. So you're kind of creating something that's not just for a limited amount of people, and you are really looking at what you can get around you, and I think that's really important.
I
Yeah,
think
agree.
it's not only the ingredients has the localism, but also some microbes we are growing for our products, for our design has a localism as well. And some products with living microbes or living myceliums, which just can grow in a specific geography. It has a sale to another place, maybe it will have other environmental problems will be extended. So I think it's the localism, biological localism, biodesign localism impact our how do we sell them and how do we produce them. Yeah, something like that.
Oh, yeah, of course. And I totally agree with all of you. And I want to also talk with you that maybe you know more also than me about a topic that it's been we talk also always when we talk about sustainability, because sustainability is really cool that now is a trend, we can say, but in another way it's also bad, we can say, because now there are some action of greenwashing from some brands and from some firms, from some companies, because they want to follow the trend, but they do in another way. So they communicate to be green, but they are not in the real way. So maybe with your project you can have like an impact on this. Maybe with new materials, with new textiles, you can have an impact on this. So the greenwashing maybe could not happen again, because from the beginning, the material, then the new textile will change maybe the production. What do you think?
Yeah, I think greenwashing is like a massive problem at the minute. I'm not going to name and shame, but there's a lot of cheap brands out there that they've come out with, organic cotton lines and or sustainable lines, and you can just looking from the quality or everything else that they do and how quickly they're producing, that there really isn't a way that that level of what they're doing could be sustainable. And I think that one of the things we already focus on is saying exactly what our work is made from, and really trying to get people to not just look at it and go, oh, okay, that's made from slime mold or mycelium. It's also understanding everything that it takes to make that, and really understanding why it's better and explaining it properly. And I think education and knowledge and really sharing, everything that we've learned over the last 2 years is really important, especially with, people can hear organic cotton and think that's the better option. And it's really showing all the pros and cons to everything, I think.
Yeah, and like recently it was quite nice and refreshing to read that Ghani had come out and said, look, we haven't been as good as we should have been. We haven't been doing sustainability properly and we can do better. And I feel like more brands should do that. I mean, I think with, social media being so impactful for brands and companies and designers, the public and consumers are so wise to it, and they know when something is just a greenwashing and it's a bit fake of a campaign. But I think that courses like ours really show that there is so many steps that go into just making the material. So there's so much impact that could be changed and altered before a designer even goes to the shop and picks out a fabric. So it's not easy. It's not as easy to just say this is an organic cotton top that'll biodegrade,
Of
because
course.
then it's like, well, what people have been impacted throughout the process before then, and there's so many times that there could be a negative impact. So I think it's a conversation that it's never going to be solved overnight, and it's not going to be one sort of solution. It's going to be a lot of different options for designers to choose from, and I think just having the conversation is just the best start.
I think something to add on to that as well is like, I think we learned a lot within the way we talk about it. Like, our language is so different now because we're able to like bring in scientific terms, but how do we actually communicate that to the public, right? Like, how do they understand it the way we understand it? So I think our responsibility for like the future generation is to kind of communicate and to help bring that language into light and make it accessible. So I'm really looking forward to that.
I think for me, it's almost made me design in reverse. From like a designer's point of view, normally you would start with what you wanted and then just get everything you could to fit that design. But working with living organisms or new materials, it really is about, okay, well, what's best for that material and what can I do with that? You kind of look at the end product really towards the end rather than the beginning, which for me was a really different way of working. And maybe if all companies took that on board and they started with, well, what do we have availability to right now that is better than what we've got, and then designed from that could be just a small change that would really make a big impact.
Of course. Peng, I'm sorry we lost you, and we were talking about greenwashing and
Yeah.
and all the problems that companies maybe also could face in the beginning of this kind of
Yeah.
changing. We are changing our minds. T said something really important. I think that the awareness also to people is really important. So also you guys as a designer, as a biodesign and fashion design has a really important impact in the future about this kind of topic.
Yeah. Also about the greenwashing, sometimes you can't measure which material is actually sustainable or not, because like sometimes if you want to make a more sustainable material, it will take you more energy and effort to make that in comparison with the original one.
Okay, sure. I
So
did
it's
never
also
thought
like
about
a little bit
that.
of greenwashing, I think.
Of course. Liu, tell me, what do you think?
Yeah, and I think it's very important area, but there is a less designer focus on that, and it's very hard to count what's the problems that material made and need to be cleaned or something. So when we wash the fabric, there is some microfibers in the water, and it's irreversible. So maybe we can try the different way to take care of the fabric. It's a good way to thinking about or something for our future biomaterials. So I think there are multiple way to do that, and not only for the green washing, maybe other ways. Yeah, between
Of course. And I would like also you girls about as a last question for this talk. I would like to each of you now. What was the biggest? Because these are really maybe hard topics, and you did like a new master, a new course that there wasn't before, and so maybe you face some obstacles also in your projects, or also maybe in when you roll in this course. So I would like to know more about the obstacles you faced when you started doing the project, because I can imagine maybe the difficulties also to something more scientific with a base of fashion design, and so you had to learn a lot of new things. I heard also from your colleagues, also maybe the scientific language, or I don't know, something new. So make a new project from fashion design to put biology in it. So what was the obstacle, the biggest obstacle you faced during the process?
Yeah,
Cassie, can I
well,
start?
yeah. I think there was like quite like obviously things like scientific language and trying to understand papers, but I think as well, like for my project specifically, I decided to look at an existing fiber flax. So it's a living organism that has been used a lot for textiles, and I wanted to kind of change our thinking of what it could be. And I think that was a big obstacle in trying to explain why it's something new, even though it's from something that is already existing material. So I think that was quite a big obstacle, is learning the right language to explain my project in sort of layman's terms. Because for me, I can get caught up in thinking that everyone has as much knowledge around it as I do. But when someone first hears about it, you have to be able to kind of have that conversation so that we get it right away. So I think that was probably quite a tough obstacle, as well as I think I can get quite ahead of myself, and I was quite eager that I want this material to be ready to be used. But I think with biodesign, it's about slowing down and thinking things need to be tested and things need to go through a process before it can really be a product, and trying to change that mindset, especially when you're a designer. Usually things happen like quite quickly when you make things, and having to
Of
slow down
course.
and consider things was quite tricky.
And
Yeah.
I was thinking right now, I'm sorry to interrupt. Do you will need some certification maybe later when you will face also this kind of project?
Yeah, so I've actually been like having talks with people about like trademarks and IP and things like that. And it is such a lengthy process. And because this is another frustration within biodesign and sustainability and fashion, is there's no proper certifications to say something is biodegradable or that something is, organic. There's no like by law certifications. So it's quite tricky to actually try and stand out aside from people who are greenwashing. So there's nothing official, but you can like protect your ideas, of course.
Yeah, of course. T, so tell me about your biggest obstacle when you did your project.
I think for me was really, I'm going to keep this broad, but when you unlearn something and you're kind of starting from the bottom, um, I think for me, like, I didn't see myself being just a fashion designer anymore. Like, I think everyone's title just became this multidisciplinary background. So we were learning a lot during the whole entire course. So we had to kind of give up everything we already knew and kind of start from the beginning and form this relationship with science. And I think for me, that was the biggest obstacle because I was always thinking about the end product, the bigger picture, but we had to like Cassie mentioned, kind of actually go into testing and looking into petri dishes and see how things are evolving with the organism. I think that for me was probably the biggest obstacle. It's like how do I have this relationship with my material instead of like thinking about the end product. So
Of course, you have like to start again all over, and you want already the final because you studied maybe in years before. How do you want the final project? And now you have to start again to produce it. So yeah, I can understand that. And Emily, about you? What about you?
I think for me, it was kind of knowing the results that I wanted to get from it and having just the time to do it in. I feel like you could keep working and working and working on all of our projects you could not stop. There's always something else to try and someone else to talk to. And for me, it was really wanting to just push it a bit further and kind of working out, okay, when to move on to the next part, and almost the unpredictability. There was, I really wanted everything to be bright and bold and push all of the living materials to their limits, and some things that I thought, like the brightness, just happened, and the scalability was a lot easier than I thought, but then other things just really didn't work. Like color fastness was way more of an issue than I would normally deal with, and it was kind of not giving up or changing what you want to achieve, but also understanding that this is a new organism that you haven't worked with before, and it's not going to do everything that you think it is, especially in the lab. We had a really great lab technician who would really put everything into terms that we'd understand, and he was always kind of telling us, you might read a paper, but it doesn't mean that you're going to follow it step by step and it's going to work. If they don't tell you everything, and you could do it 4 times and it will work great, and then the 5th time it doesn't work at all. So yeah, I think it was the wanting to keep going with it and not getting the same results every time. Definitely.
Of course, yeah, I can understand this kind of things never go. Maybe are unpredictable. The unpredictability of this kind of things is difficult. It's difficult to face it. And Lu, what was your biggest obstacle while you were designing your project?
I think there are several challenges to me, and firstly, the scientific paper is very difficult. Sometimes after you read it, and then you cannot do the same experiment as in your own experiment. And yes, you have to face through many failure, and sometimes the mycelium will be contaminations, and then you have to many times. And I think it's a challenge to me on the psychology, because you have to face to the failure, and you have to repeat your experiment once and once again. And there are lots of things need to change a little bit, and the result is different. So sometimes you need to be very patient, to do everything. So I think the whole process is totally different with fashion design at my previous project which I did. So I think the whole process is a challenge to me.
Of course, and also maybe also the creative process of it. Not only the process itself, but also to think about how you will have to make the project. I believe.
And sometimes if you want to do the big piece and you have not enough time to do that, but our fashion, we have to do the big piece something, and if we choose to do the big piece, maybe we don't have very enough time to do the experiments. So we need to choose which we want.
Of course. Yeah, okay, thank you. Peng, what about you?
Yeah, add on everybody says like scientific part, and also the scalability and the color fastness, and also like try from nothing, start from zero. And my add-on is that the fungi or some living organism always act out of our expectation. So I think the adaptability is also key during your development of biodesign. And also you have to try to iterate your design and your experiment for a very long time, many times of failures. And so you have to be also very optimistic when you face those kind of failures. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. It was really challenging also about psychological way to face the process of the project, I believe. And so, girls, I would like to thank you, all of you, for this talk. I really enjoyed to hear about this kind of the how fashion and design goes together in a biological thinking, in a biological way. And so this was really interesting. And I wish you to see in September during the Undertime Week. I would like to. and I hope to see you. And I invite all the people that are watching us to visit your profiles on our community and to know more about your projects and to interact also with you, to ask you something about your projects. And I wish you all of you good luck, and I hope to see you soon, really soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
See you later.